Welcome to the lesson on calculating maximums and minimums from a graph of a function. The function that we're going to use today is f of x equals x cubed minus 6x plus 1. So the way we're going to type this into the calculator, you need to understand that f of x is the same thing as y. So you just want to think about that you're going to be typing in y equals x cubed minus 6x plus 1. On a graphing calculator, you don't actually have to type the y. We're going to go to the graphing buttons, which are on the very top row, and top left is the y equals button. So we're going to type that, and now we're ready to type in our function x cubed. So the x button is to the right of the green button. It says xt theta n on it. So we're going to type that. Now we're going to raise it to the third power. So we need to use the exponent button, which is just above the division button. And then we're going to type in a 3. Now we're in math print, or pretty print, so it's going to look like an actual exponent. But you have to remember to come out of the exponent by pressing the right arrow key. Now we're going to continue our function with minus. Make sure you use the minus button and not the integer negative button. 6, then x, and then plus 1. Plus 1. Now to make our function graph, we're going to check our screen. Let's type the zoom button. We want to check and make sure our screen is on a standard viewing window, which is zoom 6. If you're in that window, you don't have to press this every time. Then you would just go to graph. So I'm going to go down to Z standard. I'm going to press enter. This will create a -10 to +10 viewing window for X and for Y. And notice we have a pretty cubic function. We want to calculate the maximums and minimums. So this particular function has one maximum right here and one minimum right here. So we're going to calculate the maximum first. We want to go to second, which is the blue button, and then trace. Right above trace in blue, you'll see it says calculate. So let's press that. And we want to calculate the maximum. So we're going to go down here to number 4. We can either scroll down, or we can actually pick number 4. So let's pick 4, and that'll start asking us some questions. We want to know, or the calculator's asking us for the left bound. So if you look at this maximum, what is to the left of that maximum? That's this side of the equation. So we want to move this cursor, see where it's blinking? We want to move that cursor just so that it's to the left of the maximum, anywhere on this part of the function. So we're going to use the left arrow key. Scroll over to the left of the maximum. Like I said, any place left. I don't have to go way left. I don't have to go, 2 clicks left. It's just anywhere. Then you say, yes, you got the left bound by pressing enter. Now the calculator is going to ask you another question. Right here it says right bound. Again, you're looking at that maximum point. So what's to the right of this maximum? Is anything going over here to the right? So I want to move this blinking cursor just to the other side. So how do I do that? I press the right arrow key, and I press it until I get to the right of that arrow. Press enter. And now the calculator is asking me to guess. Before I go to my guess, I wanted you to notice that the calculator has these 2 little triangles pointing at each other. That's the boundaries that you have set up for the calculator to help the programming on the calculator get to the correct maximum. So sometimes this boundary may be bigger, sometimes it may be closer together. But our maximum happens somewhere in between those 2 arrows. So to guess, we want to just put our cursor somewhere where we think our best guess is for that maximum. So you're going to press, for me, I'm going to go left arrow key till I get to that highest point, somewhere approximately the highest point, and then I'm going to press enter. At that point, now it tells us at the bottom of the screen, the maximum is x equals -1.414, y equals 6.657. We'll round that off to that third decimal place. Okay, so that's our maximum point. That's the coordinate. Now we want to calculate the minimum. So we go back to the second, calculate, and this is the minimum. So notice minimum is number 3. So you can scroll down, or you can press 3, press enter. Again, the calculator is going to ask us some questions. So again, it asks for the left boundary. Now we're not talking about this point anymore. We've got to move over here to the minimum point, which happens right here. So what's to the left of that particular minimum point is any part of the function right here. So I need to move my cursor so that it's somewhere in this area. The way to do that is I'm going to go to the right. So I'm just going to use that right arrow key. I'm going to bring it down sort of closer to that minimum point. It doesn't have to be too close. It just doesn't need to be too far away. Now to pick that point, I'm going to press enter. Then I'm going to look at the screen and it asks me right bound. That just means what's the right boundary for this particular minimum point. Again, here's the minimum. So anything to the right of that minimum would be on this part of the function. So I'm going to move my cursor so that it's somewhere in this area. The way to do that is I'm going to scroll right. So use the right arrow key. And notice it just follows along the function somewhere to the right of that minimum. I'm going to stop about right here and I'm going to press enter. Notice again those two arrow buttons have set up the boundary. We want to find, now notice it asks us for the guess. We need to guess, help the calculator program narrow down the focus. So we're going to scroll back to the left and guess about right here. So I'm going to scroll back and then I'm going to guess and press enter. And here we go. This is our minimum, positive 1.414, y equals negative 4.657. That concludes our lesson on calculating maximums and minimums from a graph of a function.